My name is Alexander Garcia, realtor and entrepreneur.
My name is Carlos Gonzalez, and I'm the real estate amigo. This is a podcast where our mission is to inspire and empower our Latino community.
Welcome to Latino Talks.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Alexander Garcia. I'm the host for Latino Talks. I'm joined here with my co-host, Mr. Carlos Gonzalez.
What's up?
Our goal here is to inspire, to empower the community. And we have an exciting day today.
Yes.
We have a special guest. Last month, we finished a two-piece series on entrepreneurship mindset, which was fantastic. A lot of gold nuggets there. Today, we're going to be shifting a bit. We're still on the entrepreneurial topic, but we're going to be talking more about real estate investment. Mm-hmm. And so I could not think of anybody better than my boy, Mr. Voltaire Lepe.
Mr. Voltaire,
And,
welcome.
you know, he's a good friend, real estate broker for nearly 20 years now, I believe. And so he owns his own real estate company, Lepe Tenwell Group.
Yep.
And he's a real estate educator, real estate investor, and just a staple in our real estate community.
Real estate rock star and renaissance, man.
Yes.
Good to have you here,
So
man.
without further ado, Mr. Voltaire Lepe, pleasure to have you, brother.
Hey, thank you.
Good to see you. We've almost done a couple of deals together. We almost did one a couple months ago.
Yes.
But I'm hoping that we'll eventually one day we'll get something rolling soon, man.
It's a pleasure, man. I'm excited.
No, we're excited,
absolutely,
man.
brother. Absolutely. I saw you just got back from Vegas, man. I know people are not really supposed to share too much what stays in Vegas, you know. What was the highlight of your trip, man?
Well, that's funny because when I was over there, someone messaged me and they go, "Man, I'm afraid of single men in Vegas." I said, "It's not the single men you should be afraid of going to Vegas. It's the married men."
Boom.
It's like they act like they never seen a girl before. I'm just like, God, what's going on, bro? You know, like chill. But you know, when you have freedom all the time, it's like you could go to anywhere in the world, it don't matter. You know,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
but my highlight was just watching all the basketball games and being interacting with the basketball players because I stay at the Wynn whenever I go in Vegas.
That's the only place.
It's the only place, and that's where all the people stay, all the basketball players. So you're like literally walking by them, talking to them. Like it's really cool. So that's the highlight.
Yeah.
And so this game in particular, what was this?
It's a tournament. So it's a play-in tournament, and there's all these people, all these players that want to make the NBA. So out of the 15 players, maybe 4 of them are on the actual team.
Okay.
And the other 11 are trying to get contracts. So you can just imagine the competition. Like they're like playing for their lives. Literally, they're playing for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And there's so much nerves. It's the worst basketball you ever see because they're like turning ball over, missing shots. Like they're nervous. And they're all kids. They're all like 19, 20, 21, 22, you know? So it's fun to be there.
Nice.
But you're probably also seeing some of the potential prospects that are going to possibly blow up, you know, in the near future.
Oh, I've seen all the prospects. It's really exciting to watch the top ones. They get limited playing time because they don't want to get injured.
Right.
But you know, when I see basketball, I compare to every like real estate or just life.
Right.
Because all those basketball players, they have like the same physical gifts, talents. They can run really fast, jump really high. They're super quick, big hands, tall.
Yeah. Right.
But who's gonna put in the work, right? And when I go to the Wynn, I'm downstairs at the cafe early in the morning having breakfast, 7 a.m., 7:30, and some guys pull up around 8, 9 a.m. and they're like, you know, sleepy with their hoodie and you know, they're beast,
Right.
But they probably won't make the NBA long time because they just don't have the habits in place, and then also. And the work ethic, man. But some of the other ones pull up around the same time, but they're already like in a drench and with their, you know, like they're sweated, like they already did their workout. Right.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
So it's like, okay, that guy wants it, you know. So it's pretty cool to see.
Nice.
So you can differentiate. Okay, this guy's put in the work. This guy's kind of half asleep, maybe partied last night. I don't know.
Yeah. You know,
But-
it's funny because I do see them out at night too, and I'm just like, man, these guys are like, you're fighting for your life. You got to be. You shouldn't. You should get your 8 hours.
Yeah.
You know, just get your workouts in. But that's everywhere in life. You know, you
Yeah.
can compare that to.
No, and that's what they say. That talent, it's only going to take you so far. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of college football, man. It's like, compared to the NFL, college football, like people, they are playing for their lives, like you say, you know what I mean? Because they're trying to get that
Oh, yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
And then once you get the contract, I mean, it's really up to the individual. Some continue to hustle because they're passionate about it.
Right.
And some just be like, all right, making money now, can chill a little bit,
Right.
But it definitely makes a difference. And you can incorporate a lot of those values into real estate and into the business world as well. So I know also, didn't they just create the MGM Sphere? Were you able
That
to
was
see that?
crazy. I was driving by it in the Uber, and then I just like looked up, and I see a
Right.
big basketball.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, it was a basketball?
Right.
They could do whatever they want.
Right,
So they had a basketball.
billion or something like that.
And I was like, what? And
Right.
I'm like, I had to record it, but it's a trip.
Was it a basketball the whole time, or were they switching it
They're
up?
switching it up.
Okay.
And it was a moon at one point, and I could show it to you, man. I was impressed. I was like, okay, that's pretty smart.
Bro, it's a $2 billion
Yeah, something
sphere
crazy.
that is
Yeah.
made of LED lights. It is
That's
the
crazy.
biggest LED sphere in the world.
Yeah, we're
Crazy,
actually
bro. Crazy.
we're heading up there. It's
Look at
my
it.
And that's like legit, bro.
Yeah.
Like the quality on
Look
that.
at that. Yeah, it's
that
Literally
is
looks like
crazy.
a basketball
Look at that.
slammed into the
Yes.
earth, bro.
it's wild.
that is crazy.
That's
Yeah,
crazy,
so that's
dude.
technology.
That is amazing.
No, it's my wife's birthday on Thursday. Love you, honey. And we're heading over there. We're gonna go over there, so we're gonna get to see it. I'm
Nice,
excited.
bro. Nice, right on, right on. Well, welcome back, brother.
Thank you.
And well, let's jump right in,
Yeah,
man. Again,
let's
we're
do
happy
it.
to have you, brother. We'd love to just kind of pick your brain a little bit today.
For sure.
Why don't you start off telling us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, maybe a little bit about your parents.
Yeah.
Whatever comes to mind, man.
Cool, man. Yeah, born and raised San Diego. I'm very proud of that. Very proud
Come
of being born and raised in San Diego.
Nice.
So I grew up near downtown, Logan Heights, and Sherman Heights. I don't say Sherman Heights too often because people don't know where that's at. But I grew up right there in the cut, man. In the late 80s, early 90s, my grandfather raised me. So, my mom, she had me when she was very young. She had me in high school. She would take me to high school, actually, to Garfield. And
Garfield High,
yeah,
man.
Garfield. Well, she started off
Or
at
is it
San Diego.
Garfield Element, or is it
Garfield High School,
Garfield
yeah.
High, right?
So that's where they send all the fuck ups. like my mom went there, my uncle went there.
Gotcha.
I have a bunch of friends that went there, but you start off at San Diego High and you mess up, you go to Garfield.
Okay.
So at San Diego High, that's where I grew up. That's what high school I went to.
Right.
They have an actual child center. So
Wow.
if one of your classes is to be in the child center, you're taking care of like your friends' kids. So that's where I used to hang out as a baby with my mom, and then she got transferred to Garfield, and so she was just a young mom, and so my grandpa, he basically said, "Hey, I'm gonna take the responsibility of raising this kid," and he did. So I was with him since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
And then years later, my mom came back, moved in with us. But, I think it's important, part of my journey. People are like, man, well, what's the difference? How come you're successful and this and that?
Yeah.
Well, I had a dad, that really was a man. He wasn't a boy, he didn't care about what's fun. He cared about what, his responsibilities were. So he really raised me. And I had dinner at the table, no TV, every day, my entire life.
Way. Yeah.
Old school life, old school way. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to have that dinner setting environment with your parents, even if my grandpa was cooking and the food was trash. It doesn't matter.
Not to say it wasn't.
No, the food was trash, and worst kick on
it
the
real,
planet.
brother.
Worst
Keep it
kick
real.
on the planet. Just imagine like a grown man trying to cook. And especially like old school where they don't grow up cooking.
Yeah,
Right. That's true. That's a
Yeah.
good point. He's probably having fresh cooked meals every day.
Yeah, every day. But it's the conversations you have at the dinner table with you and your siblings and everybody,
Right.
and it's like, hey, no matter what. And in the morning, same thing. Here's your breakfast, and there's no playing. You're not on your phone. You're not on TV. You're not distracted. You're just like there with your family. So I think that I love that part of my life and my journey because it made me into who I am today. But yeah, born and raised in San Diego. So I started real estate around the age of 10. That's how I got introduced to it, right? Because my uncle, he's old school broker. He's still a broker, right? And so my uncle was like my big brother, right? That's how we grew up because my grandpa raised me, so he's raising his son too.
What was his name?
Ulises Lepe.
Ulises, that's right, man.
Ulises Lepe.
He was a COA for a long time.
Century
right?
21.
Century 21.
He owned two branches. One right here on the next street over on 4th Avenue. We're on 5th right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were there for years, and then the other branch was in Bonita, right on Bonita
I remember
Road.
the Bonita one.
Okay.
Yeah, next to a Wells Fargo.
Right.
So when he first started real estate, he was 20 years old, and I was his little sidekick. He would take me everywhere, mostly because I had the money. Believe it or not, he had the car, but he needed gas money. And back then, you could get around with $2-3 in gas. So he'd be like, and I worked for my grandpa, so I would sweep his bus, and he would pay me $1 a trip, like from San Isidro to the swap meet in San Isidro, from the border to the swap meet.
Okay.
So that's how I earned money. So then my uncle, he'd be like, all right, come with me. And then he'd be like, bring your money, and then we'd go to a gas station and then go cruising around the neighborhood. So one day he showed up in a suit. And I'm like, dude, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, I'm taking this real estate classes in Bonita.
Oh, shoot.
And he ended up becoming a realtor. And so part of my responsibility growing up was I had to clean his room.
Okay.
And so one day I was cleaning his room, and then he walks in, and he takes out like a fat stack of money and puts it on the dresser. And I'm like, dude, what is that? Where you get that from? All this stuff.
Right.
And the only thing I wanted to do as a kid was be rich, and I thought I was going to be an NFL player. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be an NFL, be rich, buy everybody a house and blah, blah,
Right.
And when he pulled out the money, I was like, where you get that from? He says, I just sold a house. And I'm like, what? And that's when I realized, like, oh, dude, you can make money in real estate.
Right.
And my first restaurant ever was across the street at El Golosito. I don't know if you know, it's on 24th and Imperial, still there, to Marisco's place. And he goes, you want to go eat? And I go, what do you mean? Because, we never been to a restaurant. I'm like, go eat. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, just go to a restaurant. I go, hell yeah. So we walked across the street, and I just remember eating. I'm like, man, this is good. Like, it wasn't my grandpa's cooking,
It's actually good.
And that got me thinking. And then from there, he would take me to open houses. We would go to vacant homes and shit. So as a kid, check this out. Back then, there was no electronic lock boxes or nothing.
Right.
And we get to a point where we were hungry. So then he would be like, come on, let's roll. And then we go to a house. This is back in the 90s, early 90s.
Right.
And we would go through their fridge. Yeah. So I'd be at the door.
Crazy.
You would go, through the fridge, we grab food.
Right.
And I was like 10 years old maybe. And that was my introduction to real estate. So I remember thinking, like, shit, you have power. You have a key to the house, people's houses.
They didn't have cameras back then either.
No cameras.
No
and
ring.
Yeah.
Today, you probably wouldn't get away with it. But
No, man. So that was my introduction. I would sleep at that office, and because he would stay late night. So I would sleep at the office on a different one on Bonita Road. The broker back then in the early 90s was Joel Farrell, and he used to drive this this Benz.
Porsche, no?
Yeah, well, all kinds of cars.
okay,
But back
okay.
then in the early 90s, he drove a Porsche like 550 SL, which the title companies paid for. Back then, you could pay for cars as title reps. You could pay for computers, and that's why they changed all the laws.
Yeah, no
they
kickbacks.
can't even buy you lunch no more.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So, so that's like the era that I was introduced to real estate into.
Right.
So in high school, I knew I was going to go into real estate, and I started working for my uncle as his assistant in high school, and that's how I started.
That's awesome.
Man.
Yeah.
That is so cool, man. Yeah, I remember Ulises. I never worked with him, but he was a big name, man.
Oh, huge name.
Because I started a few years after you. You've been in it a little bit longer than I have. But Ulises was a big name, bro. And I remember the office in Bonita. But that's pretty amazing, man. And I love the fact that they were instilling values so young at a young age. It's like, hey, let's get you to work, even if it was $1 or whatever. You're learning a valuable lesson there, right?
Yeah.
And that I feel is very strong in the Latino community, especially in the Mexican community. We work for our money, man. You don't see, and I've said this before in other podcasts. You don't see very many Mexican homeless people, they will work for that dollar, bro. They will work for it, man. And that is something that is instilled very deeply into our culture.
Yes, and it's funny because we were just talking about it, in the pre-interview, that you Voltaire were telling us that, this is something that is, in our blood. And it's funny because I think Alex and I talked about that on the first episode, that how key it is to be entrepreneurial, and especially us coming, with a Latino and in our case, Mexican background, there's, because over there, either you're entrepreneur, or if you work for, the gobierno or the luz, or, the SDG&E version of that, you're going to go broke. So you gotta find a way that you can generate business. So talk to us about, about that, about how it's in our blood.
Yeah. I think entrepreneurial, the word entrepreneur and all these, things that on the media, I think everyone thinks it's a new thing.
Yeah.
And it hadn't existed for a long time. But if you look at your background, like my background, my grandpa drove a cab and a bus, right? So that was his own business. And the faster he could get people from point A to point B, the more money he made. My great uncle on his deathbed, years back, I remember I was in the hospital. I looked at his little hospital sheet, and it said occupation. And I saw in there mechanic shop owner, chicken shop owner, taco shop owner, furniture shop owner. Like, he listed like 18 things. And I remember I was like, bro, what? I started laughing. I'm like, why do you list all these things?
Right.
And he says, well, those are all the businesses I've owned over the years.
Right.
And I go, yeah. He goes, let me tell you something. This is on his deathbed. He actually ended up dying like 2 hours later.
Wow.
And he says, I'd rather own a business and make jack shit than go work for someone and earn $500,000 a year. And I remember he told me that, and I was like, oh, damn. Okay. But I do remember growing up, we visit him every weekend in TJ. He lived in TJ.
Right.
But, he gets like benefits over here somehow. So he died over here.
Of course.
The best hospital in San Diego.
Right. Scripts in the whole,
yeah. So anyhow, he, growing up, I would eat at his chicken shop. I would be working at his furniture shop, at his mechanic shop. And then my other great uncle right next door, he had a ferreteria, like a warehouse with like tools and equipment used that he would sell. That was my first job with him, because he employed all the kids in the neighborhood. Right. In Colonia Obrera in TJ.
Yeah. Okay.
And I remember telling my grandpa, man, can I go work for him? You think he'll hire me? And he goes, I don't know. He says, go ask him. Yeah. Go ask him for a job. And then I go, all right. And then I was young. I was probably like 8. And I remember all my friends worked for him. That's why I was like, all right, my friends, like I'm just right here, just waiting around for them to get finished work,
Yeah, might as well just go.
So I'm like, hey, can you hire me? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, all right. And then, we agreed on a price that he would pay me a day, which same price all the other kids. And I remember just working for him. And he had he employed probably 15 kids, like the entire neighborhood. Yeah. And all day. And we'd go there, I would get paid, and then the only difference was I would get my money, and then I would go and buy chips and stuff like that. The other kids, they would go home and give it to their parents. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? And then and they didn't live too well. You know what I'm saying? But anyhow, it's in our blood. Right. But we overlook it because we think entrepreneur is like some big word that you need to be in an office somewhere and skyrise and blah, blah, blah. It's like, nah, that's not what it is. Right. What it is making your own way, providing for yourself and your family without depending on someone else. And that's why when we get into the real estate portion, I don't like buying leads. I don't like being dependent on another company, another man to give me, are you going to give me leads today? Are they going to be any good? Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, it's important to just make your own way, but just understand that it's not some huge fancy word that, somebody else made up. Exactly. It's like, this is something that is in our blood and it's been in our blood, in our genes for a long time.
Right. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. So how did you, so I know you got into real estate at the age of 10.
That's amazing.
You got your license, maybe at the age of 18,
20.
19, 20? Okay,
yep.
20. And so when you started that, was your mindset, I'm going to sell real estate, I want to open a team, I want to get into investment right away, or what was your mindset going in initially?
My mindset, unfortunately, was like the majority of agents right now, I want to earn commissions.
Got it.
And when I sold my first house, I made like $4,300, and I went to Devon's Union Bank and I cashed it. And I was inside my car, outside counting the cash in my hand.
Did you take a picture of the check?
No, there wasn't any
was
like
no
camera
phones.
phones back then. Yeah. Shit.
You had the Nokia centipede.
Oh, trust. I would take a photo, uploaded it, be like, check this shit out. F everybody. But no, man. It was just in my car. I'm like, oh shit, I can't tell nobody. You know, I put it in my pocket. Back then, you didn't tell nobody. What I'm doing today, going around telling people that I got money.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
Right.
You know, it was a conscious decision that I made and got over that hump years back. But long story short, my mentality was just like, I need to get 100 of these checks. It was never anything other than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you started that with that mindset, which I agree. I think, probably 90% of agents start off with that mindset, right? And then at what point did you say or learn, or who was it in your life that helped you realize, okay, maybe I should be doing something different here? I'm kind of just chasing the win, as you will. Maybe I need to start making some passive income. Maybe I need to start investing in some real estate. So what was it for you that gave you that bridge, if you will?
Yeah. So, I was making good money, early 20s, 6 figures a year, and I was a good saver. I've always been a good saver. And so I would loan out the money for return on investment. And then...
So you're like hard money.
Yeah.
Hard money.
Yeah. Wow. And my uncle, he flipped over 1,000 homes.
Damn.
Yeah, from the
Ulises.
Ulises, from the 90s to 2000s.
Right. Yeah.
So all my idols, all my mentors were flippers, right?
Gotcha.
So I would be like, hey, teach me how to flip. Oh, yeah, whatever. And nobody teach me.
Right.
And then, but then Ulises taught me how to wholesale, right? So I went, okay, cool. Like, I don't like construction. I'm with that. So let me do that. So I wholesaled a couple properties, maybe when I was 22, 23, 24. And then...
Hey, real quick, sorry to interrupt you. Just for our audience, for people who are listening, because not everybody is super real estate savvy. What does it mean to wholesale?
Wholesale just means making money off a property without any of your own skin in the game.
Right.
That's just like the biggest scam in history, right? So basically, you tell a seller you're going to buy the property for, as an example, my first one, I told him $275. We agreed on the price. I knew it was a good price. So that's the first skill of a wholesaler that you need to know, is understand what the value is of the property. And from there, negotiate that you're going to close in 30 days in that example. As soon as I left that appointment, I called my uncle's partner and I said, hey, I got a property for you. You want to buy it? Yeah. He said, what's the price? $305,000.
Right.
And he says, 305. Yeah. When can I see it? Tomorrow. So then the next day I call the lady back and I go, hey, I need to see your property again. Walk it with one of my partners. Great. We walked it. They said yes, shook hands. Next thing you know, I made $30,000 paycheck. Bam, just like that. Easy.
Yeah.
No down payment, none of my own money. So that's kind of my first deal that I did, where I'm like, okay, I can make money besides commissions.
Right.
And then from there, I got into, before that actually, I had got into escrow on a property where it was a duplex in National City. And I'm like, and my mom said, you should own some real estate. I go, yeah. And she goes, yeah. Duplex in National City, $550. And I was like, okay, cool. And I remember I didn't have no money. That was like the first property I ever tried to buy. And long story short, they accepted my offer. I got approved with a heartbeat loan back in the day.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And I remember I went into escrow, and thank God it had a cracked foundation. And I tried to negotiate that. They said no. But anyways, fast forward, I didn't buy that property, but I started wholesaling, made little chunks here and there.
Okay.
And that's when the market broke. The market broke. All my mentors lost everything.
Right.
Yeah.
All their money, all their properties. It was just really bad back then.
Right.
And
I remember that.
Yeah.
We all do.
It was crazy.
And I didn't own any real estate, so I was like, oh, shoot. And then, so anyways, I had money. I had saved up over 6 figures in the bank. And 2008, 2009, I jumped into a commercial real estate firm. And that's the first time that somebody who is an OG apartment broker here in San Diego.
Right.
Old school, really awesome mentor. He taught me the apartment game, the real estate, commercial real estate game on the apartment side. And he's the one that said, hey, Voltaire, you should buy yourself a duplex, figure out, with one of these sellers, do a seller carry back, put a down payment, and get yourself a duplex. And I remember thinking, like, duplex, that doesn't even sound like fun. It sounds too small, and it smells, it's like, I wanted to go bigger. But he's the one that first told me, like, this is what you should do. And then from there, I'm like, okay. And I started looking for investment property to buy.
Nice.
Right.
Nice, man. And it's such an interesting story because here you are, you're being raised by your grandfather. Did his values and education and all that, did all that also had to do with you saying, you know what, I do want to keep growing my portfolio, or like you said earlier, I want to be rich, and I want to be at that point where I can tell you that hey, I'm rich, and this is me, and that's it. Did it had a lot to do with that as well?
Yeah, I mean, my grandfather, his upbringing of me, I mean, it was everything. Yeah. So when I was small, so he bought a duplex and a garage in the 70s. That's where I grew up. That's the family house.
A duplex with a garage?
A duplex with a garage in the back in the alley.
Okay.
All right.
So the duplex, he ended up, we lived in one unit. He rented the other. The garage, he rented it to a mechanic. And then in between the garage and the duplex in the front, there was a trailer, a mobile home, brand new that he had got because he was in a car. Check this out. So my grandma, she passed away in a car accident on the way to like Ensenada.
Okay.
And, she flew out the window, left my grandpa raising, 3 children, and then eventually me.
Yeah,
and,
fortunately.
Yeah. And so he had insurance. So he calls the insurance company and goes, hey, I have insurance. And they go, no, you don't. You don't have a policy. So then he called his insurance guy. So back then, and still sometimes now, you pay the insurance broker, not the company. So this insurance broker was scamming everybody, keeping all the money every month, or the payments every year, the premiums, and never paying the actual insurance. So part of that settlement, he gave him a mobile home. So he had a mobile home in the backyard that he would rent out as well.
Right.
My job as a kid was to go to all the tenants and collect the rent every month.
Got it.
Right. So that was my first property management gig. And then he would give me like $5, a few bucks to do that. And then I would have to like hear all their excuses, and they're going to be late. And then like, I already knew.
How old are you at this time?
I was like 8.
Like 8?
Yeah, 8 years old. Yeah.
That's insane.
So I would come back with him with the cash and make sure it's all there, and then deal with these the bad guy. I wrote a story about him. His name's Camacho. First drunk of my life that I ever met. He was a garage mechanic owner of that, and then him and his buddies just drink all day. Barely work on cars, and I had to deal with him a lot. And
as an 8-year-old,
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And then the mobile home tenant and the guys upstairs, there would be like 4 roommates upstairs. So what I learned from him was like you can make money and the property's paying for itself through real estate, and he also taught me, like, I was the one responsible for the bills, SDG&E, the water bill, the mortgage payment. I'm the one that would get the cash, go across the street, buy a money order, and then put it in an envelope. You mail stuff back then, and then take it to the post office, walk over there.
Crazy.
And so I was responsible for the household bills. So he taught me early on, like, all that stuff. Every day of my life, I would have extra homework. So whatever the school gave me, he would have art for me every day, math, Spanish, and English.
Right. Okay.
So I would have to do his homework plus my school homework every single day. So that's how he brought me up, plus every chore in the house.
Right.
That's crazy. I mean, I've been hearing about this concept. It's not quite a homeschool. It's like unschool or something like that, where pretty much, with the way our public education system is going, and with a lot of parents acknowledging and saying, hey, you know what, my kid might not be built for, all these classes that might have nothing to do with his personality traits, things he's good at. So what a lot of parents are doing now is like a version of homeschooling. So like, let's say that, my kid loves the Titanic. So I'm like, all right, so it sounds like he has like a very engineering kind of mind. So I'm going to explore that through my own version of homeschooling. I mean, all the stuff that you're telling us, I mean, at 8 years old, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I wish I had that kind of experience, when I was 20, So what is your perception with like education versus, the entrepreneurial route?
Yeah. Well, I think that we all have, like when I said entrepreneur earlier, we all have a responsibility to make our own money. We can't be dependent on nobody else. In the same way that we all have the responsibility with our education to be self-educated and to learn. So my grandpa took on that responsibility very seriously, and he self-educated himself. He educated me. He had me educate myself by reading and all this extra stuff that he would have me do. Right. And he taught me how to work really hard, wake up at 4 something in the morning every day, his entire life. Yeah. So he taught me all these things. He basically, he took on the role of a parent, like a real parent, right. Like not just, you
here's
just
the
go,
iPad.
Here's the iPad hanging. Like,
right.
no, like he took that responsibility on like nobody's business,
right. That's amazing.
And that's awesome. What doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah,
so
you don't see that no more.
If you're a parent and you're dependent on someone else educating your kids for you, you already took that L.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And if same thing, yeah.
So
at the end of the day, I teach financial literacy to kids.
Okay.
Right. I have workshops. The last one I had like 200 kids.
Wow.
Right there in Sherman Heights.
Wow. That's amazing.
So I've been teaching financial literacy for a long time. Started off with adults and then I went to kids.
Yeah.
So I teach them everything that I've learned. And a big foundation of that is my grandpa, that taught me all these things. And also I volunteer and I have about 10 interns come in a year.
Okay.
So I try to teach them different financial lessons, different life lessons while they're there with me that I've learned. And I still go to some high schools and I'm part of like the little committee that sees if they're going to graduate or not.
Right.
Gotcha.
And it's really bad. It's terrible, man.
Really?
I'm just like, wow. Just watching these kids, listening to these kids, watching their portfolios, see how, what they've done the last 4 years in high school. Right. And I'm just like, bro, this is terrible. So me personally, I don't have kids yet. Yeah. I will have a family, but I'm not going to leave it to someone else. Just like my grandpa didn't leave it to someone else either.
Yeah.
Right.
That's incredible.
No,
that is incredible.
Yes, no, definitely. And that does segue us into the next question that I had for you is, why is, you tell us that you do a lot of education, with the kids and also, speaking, about, hey, grow your wealth, invest in real estate. Why is this so important for you and for our culture as a Latino culture that, we're so used to, have the money under the mattress and that's it. Why, what's your why behind all this as far as like, I want to do it because of this?
I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. I mean, there's no big why behind it. Someone taught me. I think you're supposed to teach someone else.
Love it.
The other thing why I'm okay with saying, hey, money's good and all this, because in the Bible, that's what it says. When I was growing up, I went to Sherman Heights and Burbank my first several years, and I started getting like recruited into gangs and all these. So then my grandpa and my mom made the decision to send me to a private school. So they sent me to the local Catholic school right there called Our Ladies. And that's where I started learning about God and like principles of the Bible. Right. And so the Bible says gold is good. Why would God say that? It's simple, because the only way you can make money is by providing a good or a service.
Of course.
So if we're in here, this is how we survive on earth, is we provide services and goods to our fellow brothers and sisters.
Right.
The more people that you could service and give goods to, the better off everyone is and the happier God is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important to know about money, grow your wealth. And and teach others. If someone taught you, you got to teach others. You got to put somebody else up on game.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you see from people when they have, and I'm sure that it comes to mindset, like, no, I just don't know enough, or no, that's not, I'm not built for that, or, maybe my kids, or, what are some of the misconceptions that you see when it comes about growing your wealth through real estate investing?
I don't even think there's misconceptions. I just think that people aren't aware of what they should be doing. They're not educating themselves. Like now with like social media, people hear like, oh, people are buying, you could buy. Like before there wasn't that. So now I think the thing that's holding people back is just fear, because they see other people do it. They see their friends, family, and it's just fear. At the end of the day, it's putting people in headlights, and they're just stuck and they don't want to move forward, and they're comfortable. It's like, for example, this realtor recently was thinking about coming to my company, right? And said that she wanted to grow her wealth and she wanted to sell a lot more houses. And I'm like, perfect, we'd be the great fit.
Right.
And for some reason, she was paralyzed, right? And it's happened to me time and time again. But what I realized, what happens and why people don't want to join my brokerage is because they know if they're in with me, like, I take this serious, Right. So for her, she was paralyzed with like, I don't want to commit yet. So when people are fearful and they're saying, oh, misconceptions, or I didn't know about it or whatever, it's just they're not ready to commit. And everyone has their own journey. Right. And some people commit to home ownership at the age of 52 and others at 27. Right. But it's just that level of commitment, because we're all afraid of really how powerful we are, because we all have God in us and we're like, we could do anything. Amen. But we're afraid of it because it's so much work, bro. Exactly. It's so much work. Who the hell wants to wake up that early and take on another job in order to make ends meet? And nobody wants to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to just chill on my lake and kick it. Yeah,
no, that's awesome.
Fear's a big one, man. I can relate, man. I think that most of my younger adult life, it's just instilled with fear, which is like they say, fear is an illusion. It's not even real. It's being afraid of the future, and it's like until you get over that mindset and understand fear is danger is real. But fear is just a figment of our imagination.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, and that's why we say, we want to inspire and empower, help each other get rid of that fear. And, because we're sitting here in front of the mic doesn't mean that we are exempt from the process, Right. I still, you're saying so many things that are clicking with me, and I'm like, I got to work on this, I got to work on that. Because that is 100% true. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's just the fear,
Yeah, I think like you mentioned something that clicked with me right now. There's a difference between fear and danger. Danger is real. I've had guns pulled on me several times throughout my growing up in Logan Heights. Like that's just part of it. I got robbed before, I got all kinds of stuff. And that stuff, when I'm in the business world, when I got into real estate, I'm like, man, this is easy. I'm eating people's lunches because there's no danger. Right. There might be fear, but there's no damn danger. Exactly. I know I'm like growing up, I would have to calculate every single day. Okay, I'm going to walk down this street, around this corner. I can't go down that block because there's people that hang out there. I got to go down this alley up, So every day it was a maze in my head. Like, okay, which streets can I walk through today? What time is it? That's like real danger. And I was fearful. So going into real estate, I'm just like knocking on doors. Like, they ain't going to shoot me. I know that neighborhood. Like, I'm good, So I think people do confuse that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So do you feel, I mean, it seems obvious here, but do you feel that some of your upbringing has really strengthened your mindset, giving you that resilience, I would say, in your business and how you handle your own work and business and run your business? Yeah,
as a kid, my upbringing as a kid, man, I was wild. Right. And I was like, I was so wild I'm talking about like as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old. I ain't even talking about no 15-year-old, bro. I'm talking about like
early.
I started early. I had my first girlfriend at 5 years old.
Pimping ain't easy. Man.
Yeah, no, it's like I grew up in that. Like I would leave the house, sneak out around 10 o'clock, go to the arcade, and it was dangerous, all kinds of stuff going on. I was involved in all kinds of stuff with my friends and all that, and my grandpa just really disciplined me, and plus school, plus going to Catholic school, that really put the fear of God in me. Where I knew I had to change my life as a third grader.
Wow.
Like at the third grade, I'm thinking like when I first Sister Teresa, my first teacher there, and she started teaching me about the Bible, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell, and I'm like, dude. And I learned how to pray, and I started praying, and I'm like, please forgive me. But that was my upbringing. Right. I lost my train of thought, but definitely, what were we talking about?
Well, I wanted to ask you just one question. Maybe if you remember, let us know. But as far as your grandfather, so he obviously instilled a lot of these things in helping you grow, which he never had to. I mean, he did this out of the kindness of his heart, man. I mean, that is amazing. First off, that you have, is it your uncle or your grandfather?
My grandfather, and then my great uncles.
And your great uncles.
And there were G's.
Yeah.
If I tell you about them, you'll be like, like those dudes were.
Pancho Villa right there. Bro.
Yeah, there were true, there were OGs in TJ Manifestaciones. You know what that is?
Oh, yeah, I know where that is.
Like, how do you say it in English? Manifestaciones, when you go and like in front of a big crowd. And then you rile up the people and you talk the truth, and the government is this and that. And
and so they were involved. They were
like they're
movers.
They were
shakers.
very political.
Yeah, January 6th.
yeah. They're very political. They would jump on the talk radio on Saturdays and Sundays, and people knew them. And to the point where my great uncles, one of them had to come to our house and live there for about a year. And he lives in TJ. He left his family because the government. He had a lot of threats that they're going to kill him. And then my other great uncle, I mean, he was a political figure. He's had SWAT teams multiple times outside his house in TJ, arresting him. My grandfather, I mean, he was about the shit. Like, he had guns on him too. And like, I mean, those dudes were down. And if like they believed something, they would just talk it. They weren't scared. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish I had their nuts.
right.
Like those dudes, they're not scared. They're okay putting their life on the line. So that was my upbringing, is going to these big manifestaciones, or they call them here.
Like a rally.
In TJ, just like, and everyone getting arrested. And so I remember.
Kind of like an activist in a way, but, for the good of the people.
An
for the good of the community.
An activist, and the smartest minds on the planet. Like my last great uncle just passed last year, and he was 90-something, and I would still have conversations with him, and I'd be like, hey, what's going on in Mexico? And teaching me about this and that. And I mean, those dudes were pretty cool. Yeah.
So I mean, I see it in you, bro. Like, I mean, you say you don't have the cajones like they did, but I think you
you're
do,
a wild
man.
one,
I mean,
bro.
That's why we invited you, bro.
Thank
because
you.
I do see you as a power player in our community, man.
Yes.
You're a man of influence, and it's someone that's very very admirable about what you're doing. You're always out there on social media. You're a big educator. Yeah. You're constantly holding workshops. I think you just posted like 3 weeks ago. I think you had one on creating wealth.
Yeah.
And so, you're just out there, man. And I think to be a person of value, you have to be providing value to others.
Yes.
It's when you're not doing that, is just, you're just a selfish person, kind of just, holding in all this knowledge, but you're out there, you're putting it out there. And obviously, you're running your businesses at the same time, but that's amazing, bro.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Congratulations on that, man.
But and like Voltaire said, back in the day, there was no this, there was no, hey, I'm gonna set up a workshop and we're gonna talk about building wealth. Back in the day, that was kind of like the mindset, like, oh no, like that's my business, that's my thing. You go figure it out,
Right.
So it's so amazing. Because I mean, what I see is that the values that your grandfather instilled in your life, that's why you are the man you are, and you're like, you know what? Now it's my turn to do my part. So
Yeah.
You know, I really appreciate and applaud all that. What are some of the biggest challenges or struggles that you faced? You know, as you're growing into, all right, this is where I want to go. You know, what are some of the biggest hurdles that you've experienced?
The biggest hurdles I've experienced in this business is just myself. You know, just getting over that fear. Oh, you know, I can't reach out to that person because they're not going to talk to me, and get, you know. So it was just myself. There's nothing else. It's you know. But as far as like, once I got over myself, I think hiring people was kind of tough.
Okay.
Just because I had to like fail multiple times and wrong hires, and it wasn't a good fit, and they would get pissed off and I would get pissed off. And so I think just dealing with people and understanding that people is the biggest assets. Yes. And you have to learn that early on. And the earlier and that's why, look at education. I've been doing free workshops since 2015, 2015 for realtors. They would come in, I would give my playbook, right? For consumers, I started that like a year or 2 years after that, because someone said, why don't you do this for your clients? And I go, oh, that's a great idea. Right. But I understood that people are the asset. So if I keep it cool with a bunch of realtors all around town, guess what? They're going to accept my offer. Yeah, right. Absolutely. They're going to accept my offer when I bring a client. You know, if I have a listing, they're going to bring buyers and provide a good price for my seller. So many years back, I already knew that. And that's why I provide all this stuff for free, because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, look, I'm going to try to help everybody else. And I know by default, you guys are going to help me too.
Right, right. That's awesome, bro. That's a wonderful way to live, man. I mean, that's even, to me, that's very biblical too, you know. Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice. He gave everything he had for others, you know, and when we can live by those type of values, man, I think big things happen. Yeah, 100%. Sure. Absolutely, man. So what are some of your big goals now, man? I mean, what are you, actually, you know what? I'm going to pause there real quick. Before we get there, you had mentioned that you started wholesaling, then you transitioned into commercial. You started with a duplex, I believe, right? Is that what you...
Yeah, so I started in 2009. I left the residential world. I left 17 listings. I gave them to my mom because my mom's also in real estate. Okay. She's my head property manager today. Back then, she was a big REO agent. Okay. So I left her 17 listings. I went to go work at a firm in La Jolla. And I told my uncle, hey, uncle, I'm going to go over here and learn the game, commercial game, because I can't learn it from you. Right. And he was like, cool, gave me his blessing. I went up to La Jolla. I learned from the best of the best. They taught me retail, industrial, office, apartment buildings, and I was an agent, and I was their assistant, and I was working for free. So I definitely had to take some steps back and humble myself, because at that point I was a hot shit in the residential world, and over here I'm someone's assistant, you know. And so I learned the game, and then I came back in 2011, and that's when I started my own commercial brokerage, and then 2013 I started my own property management brokerage. Okay. And then in 2015, that's when I did my own residential brokerage as well, and broke off from my uncle's business.
That's awesome. Gotcha. That's awesome. And so what are the next couple of years looking like for you, bro? Like what are some big goals that you have in mind in the next few? Let's just start with the next maybe year or 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I told my team my goal was to retire at 37, right? Because I hit a certain net worth. Okay. I said, when I hit this net worth, I'm going to retire. I hit it at 37. My plan was to go to Europe and just bounce around from different cities and check out the world. But I still have a team behind. Right. They're not all set. You know, I have agents at the office. They just can't retire. They still need a leader. There's one of my agents, I'm proud to say, that she retired age of 38. Come on. And she had built up her real estate portfolio. She's a beast. She just copied my playbook as far as like, you know, hey, just copy me and you're good. Right. And she's a savage. Like, she's a savage. You guys need to have her on here. But I did talk to her recently, and I said, hey, look, my goal is to grow the company. Right. And I need you, but you have to come back to work. And she says, okay, all right, boss, I'm there. So she's going to come back to work. So my goal is, I told my team now, I said, hey, look, I'm going to teach you all the foundation that you need. Right. I'm going to teach you all the money principles. We're going to work on building your wealth. And I'm going to give it 5 solid years. I'm committing to you guys that, right? So for the next 5 years, I'm gonna help my team grow. I'm gonna help my any realtors that want to grow their net worth, that want to grow their sales. I'm committing to help them grow. That way they could be on that same path.
Right.
So for the next 5 years, I'm just be working hard on my personal business. And that's one thing about a lot of realtors that I talk to, by the way. A lot of realtors that I talk to, they go, yeah, you know, I want to just be where you're at so I don't have to sell more houses. And I don't, you know, they want to retire already, but they're not even financially in a position, not even close.
That sounds like a typical realtor.
But that's, I think every entrepreneur, realtor, I don't know about entrepreneur, but every realtor goes through that phase of just saying, one guy told me, Voltaire, I don't want to be you. This is some years back. I don't want to be, 15 years in the business and selling all these homes. He says, no, I don't want to be selling houses. So he's avoiding the work. Right. And what we all don't know, the reason I'm able to buy so many houses, this is a secret, is because I do have a good real estate practice as a realtor. I'm a great realtor. I make money as a realtor. So the banks, any bank will loan me a lot of money for any property. Right. And that's the secret. So my real estate practice fuels all my investments. So when I hear realtors say, well, I want to do it for 5 years and then I want to retire, that's not the business. And there is no retirement in the Bible either, right? They never said, oh, well, Jesus retired or whoever. Right? There's none of that. Right. So that's one thing that I just said I'm going to be in it for 5 years as a realtor, helping people. But then after those 5 years, I'm going to do something else, whether it's grow my real estate investment portfolio or some other big goals that I have. But with that being said, I think that's something that a lot of realtors miss is, dude, this is forever. Right. This is a career. A career. Exactly. You do it until the wheels fall off. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So anyways, for the next 5 years, I'm gonna help realtors. We're gonna grow. I'm gonna build my company, and I'm gonna bring on. My goal is September 30th, 100 realtors. Right now, there's 29 of us.
Nice, man.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So in 3 months, I need to triple where I'm at.
And I think you just joined EXP, I believe, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You brought your group, your brokerage to EXP. How are you liking that so far?
I like it. And people ask me, hey, Voltaire, you're an entrepreneur. Why are you going with another company?
Right.
For me, it's simple, man. It's when you can piggyback on. I've always done everything on my own. I never partnered with nobody on my properties I own. You know what I'm saying? I never did any of that. But there's huge value in partnering up with people.
Oh yeah.
And I have enough money to where it scares me if somebody ever sues me. So if any of my 29 agents mess up, a month ago, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, moving forward, EXP's in trouble, right?
That's transfer the liability.
I don't have to worry about that stuff. Plus, now, the group that I'm with, it's the best of the best. It's killers. I'm a killer, and I only do 50 to 60 million a year.
Okay.
Volume. The killers in my group, 150 million, 250 million, 110 million, 100 and something million. So I have something still to learn 20 years in. Yeah. So I'm walking into this thing as a student, humble, and I'm like, teach me what you could teach me. Right. And in return, they said, well, can you teach us about real estate investing? Because I have more property than all of them and money than most of them, more money than most of them. So I'm like, cool, I'll teach my money, I'll teach real estate, and then you teach me about business practices because their businesses are smoother than mine.
Got it.
Oh, I love it. Love it, man. Man, it's a
lot.
It's a lot. And I mean, we gotta do another interview because, when we were talking in the pre-interview, I don't know you, I think I met you once or twice, but I was telling Alex, I'm like, I'll bet you in his personal day to day, he's got systems. He's got someone like your executive assistant. You were just telling me that you do your P&L once a week. I mean, people never do that. So we gotta have another episode where we can jump into all those little things because that's what really makes the wheels turn.
That's important too. To me, it's like English. Right. I speak it. I don't even think about it. But to someone else, they go, "You do that? Oh shit! I need to start doing that."
Yeah.
I don't even know it's something anymore, you know, where at one point in time I implemented it and I forgot about it.
Right.
So there is a lot of details that definitely could help people for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And no, thank you so much for coming over to the to the podcast and give us your information as far as where can people find you, Instagram, social media, contact information, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm at Lepe 10 More Properties EXP Group. I'm in Golden Hills, so you guys could pull up on my office, 28th and B, across from the Starbucks. And then on Instagram, you can just find me under VLepe33, and I clown around a lot on there, so it's not really, you're not going to learn too much as far as real estate stuff, but you can follow me on Good Agent Life, and I try to put some content on there on Instagram. So, do
you have any like workshops coming up or
I do
educational events?
I do 25 workshops a year.
Okay.
So I do 2 a month. The last one we did last week when I was in Vegas in my hotel room, Monopoly, how to play Monopoly in real life. So I taught everybody how I have clients that grew from 0 to a lot.
Right.
To $1 million in this case, and then how I grew my personal portfolio. So now I have 51 doors.
Okay.
In San Diego. The last one that I bought was last week. Wow. And it's a family house. My 51st happens to be 30-acre property, 2 private lakes.
Ooh.
Nice 1,400 square foot house, and 4th of July weekend. Shit, we were fishing, caught like over 20 fish.
That sounds amazing.
And that's here in California?
And Alpine.
No
So
way.
all my properties are in San Diego. Okay. I don't buy nothing nowhere else. But that property is probably my favorite right now as far as like, because nobody owns nothing like that. No one has a damn lake.
Exactly, bro.
No one has no one has 2, and I have I have bass, bluegill, catfish, all kinds of stuff.
I mean, it sounds like you're describing me somewhere in Texas.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Exactly. So anyways, I have 25 workshops a year.
Okay.
And then plus some other ones like the financial literacy workshop for kids in person. I have 8 trainings a month for realtors at my office. And I've been doing that for years.
Awesome,
Gotcha.
That's awesome, brother. Well, bro, thank you so much again. And audience, thank you guys for tuning in today on the entrepreneurial
Yes, this was fire.
And just getting some pointers from the one and only.
Thank you,
man. The man, the myth, the legend.
Appreciate it.
But we do really appreciate you having you, bro. And I just want to thank my co-host, Mr.
Yes. No, great stuff, man. Great stuff.
We are signing off, guys. Thanks again for tuning in to Latino Talks. God bless you guys. And
See
stay
you guys
tuned
on the
for our next episode.
Cool.
Take care.
Peace.